Hello, friends, and welcome to the Shaman's View, the view from the invisible world. I'm Dr. Alberto Villoldo. Today, I want to revisit the last few sessions that we've done together, which is the maps of the upper world, the shaman's journey beyond death. These maps are so important because we're going to need to navigate through them when we make our final crossing into the world of spirit. But these are maps that the shaman uses every day, that you can utilize every day in your journey through this world, through the material world. I was speaking with a friend of mine and telling him about the 4 levels of the upper world, of the stone people world, the plant people world, the dark, heavy worlds of the stone people, the plant people. Wow, the first coming of the light, there's hope, there's healing. Then the spirit animal world, and how these are very challenging places for humans. And then there's the realm of the ancestors and the very elevated, mystical, beautiful world of our becoming. And he says to me, well, this, you can tell these worlds by the zip codes in New York City about who lives where. We have these realms mirrored to us psychically in human society. The people that are struggling, that are living in really dark places, those that are going through very deep emotional healing. This is a parallel to the plant people world. Deep wounding, incredible healing. They manage to get their heads above water only to slip back under again. The ones that are coming into the animal spirit world, whose instinct for creativity and for thriving has been awakened, and they are empowered. They've come into their power and they can begin to co-create with spirit. And then the realm of the wisdom of the ancient ones, where we have learned from our mistakes. We don't repeat them more than 2 or 3 times. We have acquired that wisdom that's been handed down to us from the ages, so we use it as a compass to navigate through life. And then the world of our becoming, of our greatest possibilities. And some of us begin to experience this in this body, in this world. So these are not only the realms of where we go after we have died, they're the realms that we inhabit in this world. And this is our task today as shamans, is to create heaven on earth. To create heaven on earth. It's not where you're going to go when you die. It's where you're going to go when you get up and out of bed. Are you going to go into a deep and dark place looking at your emails and struggling with your date timer and your calendar and your job and your spouse and your kids and the dog? Or are you going to go into a luminous realm that is infused with wisdom, with peace, with serenity? So this is not only done by navigating skillfully through life. The skillful means are very important. This is done by anchoring yourself, by learning to source from one of these realms now, while we are in a body, while we're alive. Learning to source from that highest realm of our becoming. Is this what occupies your day? Your spiritual development, your journey towards being the best that you can possibly be, your awakening, your enlightenment, your being compassionate and of service to others? Or is this something that you try to squeeze in at the end of your day, after you've beaten yourself up and everyone else around you? So these are realms that we inhabit today. And that's the greatest opportunity that we have as medicine men and women. And today, the Shaman's Oracle was speaking to me, and I want to share this with you. The Mystical Shaman's Oracle are the symbols of the invisible world. They are the keys that unlock powers and domains and that offer us tremendous guidance. And when I consulted the oracle, I got the tree of life. And I said, the tree of life, of course, this is what we have been journeying up to the realms of the upper world, up to the uppermost branches of the tree of life, and coming out of the uppermost branches into these heavenly realms and exploring the maps of the beyond, of the subtlest of the invisible world. And now we're going to begin a journey in the next few weeks down into the depths of the roots of the tree of life, into the roots that are going to take us into the lower world, where you have all of the craziness of humanity and all of the beauty of humanity, all of the time past that resides in the lower world. And we're going to explore in the next few meetings that we'll have together the four realms of the soul, of the four chambers of the soul realms. These are the four chambers: the chamber of wounds, where we discover our original wounding, of contracts, our soul contracts that we've entered into, many of them even before we were born. The chamber of gifts, of treasures, where we find the gifts that are being offered to us by Spirit at this time in our lives. And then the chamber of grace, where we come to recover those things that humanity has lost, or that we have lost individually as a result of trauma. So what a great card. What a great card to guide me in the presentation that I was preparing for today. Because the tree of life is the symbol for the access through these worlds, the great world tree, that we can go down into the tap roots, into the very depths of the collective unconscious, or we can follow the branches up to the highest of the highs. Now, when we journey down into the lower world, we're journeying to do soul recovery or soul retrieval, or to go to the ancient wisdom libraries. When we journey to the upper world, we're going to visit the possibilities that we have available to us as a humanity, or the possibilities for our family or for our village. Should our people go and live in this part of the country, or go to this land? Will this land look after us? And before we go into the realms and the journey to the realms of the collective unconscious of humanity, which is what the ancients called the lower world, I want to do one more thing in our journey to the upper world. I want to show us how to do a soul rescue. Soul rescue is different from soul retrieval. Soul retrieval is recovering what has been lost. Soul rescue is a deep healing of a wounded soul and taking them to their possibilities. This is what I hoped that psychology would do when I studied psychology many years ago. I hope it would help me to learn how to assist someone who is in deep pain and in suffering. And I learned that instead psychology was offering me a lot of explanations about what was wrong, but not really the tools for learning and for growth. It was as if I was in a deep hole and my therapist was giving me a shovel and telling me to dig my way out of a hole. You cannot dig your way out of a hole. So how do you practice soul rescue? And I want to share with us a few of the traditional ways that this is done. I remember working with a Chinese medicine woman, an avatar, amazing medicine woman, Buddhist, shaman, follower of Kuan Yin. In fact, when she went into deep meditation or trance, you could sense this presence of Kuan Yin, which is the great avatars, the great Bodhisattva, Avalokitesvara, extraordinary feminine presence of the Buddha. And when she would do a soul rescue, she would journey to find a person's soul, where a person's soul had become stuck in the upper world, in their journey beyond death. And she would go and pay off the karmic debts that were keeping that person trapped in a world of darkness and in a world of suffering and in a world of chaos and confusion, much like many people that we know who are embodied today. And as I was watching her do this, I figured this is exactly what we need to learn to do in psychology. How do we help to pay off these karmic debts? Now, in a very simplistic way, what she was doing was taking paper money. This was money that was printed on paper that was fake money, but that would be offered to the spirits in the bardo realms and these painful realms to pay off the debts that this person had. And when I worked with the shamans in the Andes, I saw that they had a similar process, where instead of paying off debts with fake money, they would go and feed the hungry ghosts. They would feed the hungry ghosts that were keeping this person trapped. And my challenge as a Western individual was, how do we translate this into a way that we can understand it in the West? Because I'm not going to light a fire and put fake money into the fire to pay off this evil spirit, this demon that may have someone's soul trapped. But we have to remember that this is mythical thinking, magical thinking, that in effect, when I looked more deeply into the shamanic practices of feeding the demons, what I learned is that they were feeding that person's soul. They were feeding it with the food that that soul needed. And the food they needed frequently was love. Oftentimes it was forgiveness. Occasionally it was comforting and saying, yes, I believe in you, you can do it. We were helping them to learn the lessons that they needed to learn to break that karmic loop. Otherwise, if they didn't do it, they would have to live through it again in their next lifetime, in their next incarnation. Now, I saw the same thing happening with clients of mine when I was a graduate student and learning about psychotherapy, that my patients would seem to get better, but then they would fall back into that same cyclical behavior, become attracted to another abusive person after they had managed to leave the previous one, kick the bum out of the house, but then marry another one. How they were not able to break the pattern. And this is always an indication that there's a karmic curse, that there's a generational curse or a karmic phenomena happening that will get handed down from mother to daughter, father to son, or even will continue repeating itself within a person's lifetime. How do we practice a soul rescue with a child or a loved one who's suffering, who's caught in a karmic loop? Are we going to be burning fake money for this relative or loved one or child that's stuck in a very painful place? No, that doesn't work. What works is feeding them with the sustenance that they need. And it works both in our physical realm as well as in the invisible world. In the invisible world, that sustenance happens always around a fire, with a fire ceremony. And the food that you offer the hungry ghost is love, is loving them, is forgiveness, is saying to them, yes, it's okay. You're going to be all right. I believe in you. All is forgiven. And how we can do the same practices here with people that we know that are in deep pain. We can do a soul rescue by feeding them that sustenance that will nurture their soul. And then, after they've begun to patch and repair, helping them learn the lesson that life is offering them. Because the soul rescue is a repair of karma. And that repair only happens when you embody the lesson, when you receive the lesson. That way you don't have to keep repeating the grade. And it has to happen with fire, whether it be a Chinese medicine woman doing it or an Andean shaman high up in the mountains. There's always fire, because fire is the transforming and transmuting element. In our shamanic tradition that I trained in and that we're training in, because in effect, these programs that we're doing are not only information, they're part of your training to embrace your own medicine, happen around a holy fire, a sacred fire, where you can put into that fire all that which has died, so that which needs to be born can spring forth. Very, very important part of the process. When an Andean or an Amazonian shaman does a soul recovery or soul repair, when an Amazonian shaman does a soul rescue, what they put into the fire is everything that has died in that person's life. And generally, it's everything. So that person can be born newly. And then they summon the spirit of the jaguar. The jaguar is the one that knows the ways beyond death. It's that death and life force, that death and life principle. The jaguar, this jaguar, is about 1,500 years old from the Andes, and it was carved by ancient peoples. And it represents that force of renewal. You summon jaguar to come in, and the first thing it's going to do is going to gash and gnaw and to eat away at everything that is corrupt, at everything that is rotting, at everything that is dying. And it helps if you can put it in the fire. Otherwise, it's pretty smelly in your life. Put it in the fire. And then it's going to fast forward. It's going to accelerate germination of that which is ready to be born. And frequently you say, but wait, I'm not ready for the new yet. I'm just getting over all of this stuff that I've taken out of the closet and out of my heart and out of my soul and put into the fire. I need a moment of rest. No. Those seeds begin to germinate of the possible, of the potential. And it's terrifying because we become so accustomed to working on what's wrong that when Jaguar brings us the possibilities of what's right, we don't know how to deal with it. And this is where we can most skillfully help our loved ones, our patients, our clients that are in need, is to help them nurture and care for these seeds of the possible, and not to backtrack to work on their stuff again, to work on what's keeping them from. What is it that's blocking me from? That's done. That's only an addiction and a habit that keeps drawing us back to that old. But to begin to nurture and to water those seeds of potential that they might grow and blossom and fruit and become strong trees, that tree of life, in effect. The tree of life that can give us access to the upper world and the lower world. Because it's that tree of life that we discover personally that is the result, the product of those seeds that we have germinated, that turn into great big oaks. This is what gives us access to the upper world and the lower world. Our own healing journey. It's our own tree of life. It's our own compassion born out of our suffering. Our own wisdom that is born out of understanding how we have learned the lessons of our lives in the most difficult possible way. This is what gives us the access to the upper and to the lower world. I encourage you to work with the Shaman's Oracle, to listen to the signs that nature is offering you all the time, to consult the signs of destiny that are being offered to us during these really critical times that we're living through, and to use them as an invitation to go into the deep exploration of how these realms are part of your existence today, how your upper world of possibilities and your lower world of those shadow parts that you keep hidden at, even from yourself, and that we're going to be exploring soon, how the more that we embrace these and know that these are our deep roots and know that our highest branches are summoning us, then we truly step into the medicine path. We become courageous dreamers, medicine men and women that are dreaming ourselves into being and into becoming. Thank you very much for joining me today in the Shaman's View. And beginning soon, we're going to go into our exploration of the realms that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the unconscious realms of humanity and of our own selves, where we keep our greatest wounds, our greatest pain, and our greatest treasures hidden even from ourselves. Aho.